Will Smith talks about in his book that he felt like a coward much of his life for not being able to protect his mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I think last night, if you watch that video, and I'm sure you've seen it as many times as I have,
Yeah.
that when you watch that video and you look at Jada's reaction, she immediately kind of sits back just a little bit, closes her eyes, opens them, and rolls her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And she had an upset look on her face.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he glanced over and saw that, because if you also recall in the video, he started to clap and he started to smile, and he saw his wife's reaction.
Right.
And he immediately went into that protective mode. And I think that that's triggered from childhood trauma. And I think that he had a trauma reaction, and he jumped up, walked on stage. The adrenaline started flowing in his body or throughout his body, and he didn't know how to stop himself. And he just kept going. He slapped him, turned around. I think he was feeling embarrassed, but he didn't know how to respond. And so Chris Rock continued to talk to him. And then he just lost it and started spouting out the words that we all know he said.
Right, right. And I've watched it just as many times as I've read think pieces about it, right? And so one of the things that I read was that maybe this is a great opportunity to talk about triggers. We all have them. And if there is a healthy way to respond to them when you know that they're happening, it seems like he kind of knows what his triggers are. So how do you even begin to process how to best react to them?
Absolutely. You know, I think that, gosh, I can't remember who it was, but last night, right after this happened, walked up to him and said, when the devil's in the room and you're at your highest point, or when you're at your highest point, the devil's in the room.
Denzel Washington.
And that's what happened last night, right? Yes, Denzel Washington. And gave him a hug. And he should, we all say should and could and would, right? But he didn't. But we could use our words. Our words are so much more powerful. He could have given an interview afterwards. He could have spoken to him afterwards. He could have not clapped and not smiled and looked at his wife and blew a kiss at her, something like that. But I think he had a trauma reaction, as we all know from the book that he just released. And that reaction was he felt like a coward at the moment because he was sitting there with millions of people watching, hundreds of millions of people watching probably, and probably several hundred people or 1,000 or more people in the audience. I think there was 2,000 people in the audience. And he didn't know how to respond. And instead of being calm, taking a breath, taking it in for a moment, he just went into trigger mode or fight or flight response and jumped up and took action to protect his family.
Yeah, it sounds like what I'm hearing you say, doctor, is when you feel it happening, the safest response always is to pause. It sounds like that's what I'm hearing you say. Yeah.
Just pause and take a deep breath. Just sit back, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Let it soak in for just a moment, especially in a situation like this. We all know he loves his wife. We all know they've had their problems, right? But they're working through their issues publicly. And that's a real hard spot to be in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate so much you coming here and having this human conversation with me. There's no right or wrong. Nobody has to pick a side, but learning from it, I think, is the best thing that all of us can do. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I think I can tell you that he definitely has learned from this.
So, we all have.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, we all have. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
You as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Take good care.